Yo, what's going on, guys? Today we'll be talking about the Denver Nuggets, where my soon-to-be fiance is from. She's about to graduate from Denver Law. Now, let's get right into it. I want to hear your thoughts in the comment section. What should they do after coming up short? And this is a team that, let's be honest, they are just 2 seasons removed from winning a NBA championship. They are still a formidable squad. And the Denver Nuggets are still a team, obviously, due to the fact that Jokić is there. And I think Aaron Gordon plays a huge part in this, and Christian Brown. Three guys that I think, if they have to say there are players on this team that are untouchable, Jokić, without even mentioning, is one of them. The other one is Christian Brown. Shout out Rock Chalk Jayhawks, baby, where I did my undergrad. And a large part why this team on paper wasn't as good as the Thunder, but they were able to push them to 7 games after losing in the same spot to the Timberwolves the year before. So, nonetheless, for the third year now, the team that won more than 50 regular season games for the Nuggets, and their eighth actually in a row for over 46 games won, is awesome. They have a Hall of Fame center in Jokić, and this is a team that I think they know, hey, we can't keep screwing this up for Jokić. How do we build on this? How do we try to improve? As on paper, things aren't as bad as they seem, but they're not great. I think we all know they need somebody to play center in the non-Jokić minutes. I thought, in theory, Dario Saric was going to be someone who was going to actually be able to play a decent role for them. Dario Saric ended up not playing a role for them at all. And I know Russell Westbrook worked at times, but I think we could agree that he is not the solution for them as their sixth man. And it all comes down to them finding a formidable center who can come in. I've always said if they could, since the Vucevic rumor's been around, I would love to bring Vuce here because he would be able to play alongside Jokić, but he would be the perfect Jokić backup, as I think he could come in and play those minutes incredibly well. Now, they fired their coach, and Adelman, right? It's Adelman, not Aldman. Adelman is going to be the coach moving forward. They already have their GM. They did everything internally. And this is a team, yeah, 30 points per game from Jokić, 21 from Jamal Murray, who played 67 games. Michael Porter Jr. had 18, Chris Brown 15, Gordon 15, 13 from Westbrook. Then you had 9 from Strother, 8 from Watson, 4 points a game from Jalen Pickett, who started to play more at the end of the season. DeAndre Jordan continues to be there. Like, he's fine as your third big, but you need a second guy. Like, the guy who played 16 games in Dario Saric was supposed to be that second guy, be able to play the switch big and even maybe to help you out. Like, you got to move Zeke Naji's contract. You got to figure out if Hunter Tyson's going to be able to help you out in the long run. And this is just interesting because I think the Nuggets are a team that, if you look at their salaries, it's not like they have flexibility, but they have guys under contract, and the only guys leaving. And also, I think they'll bring back Spencer Jones, PJ Hall, Trey Alexander, and probably DeAndre Jordan. But Russell Westbrook's gone. I'd assume Dario Saric picks up his contract, and you would try to trade Dario Saric and Mr. Zeke Naji, which is 13.5 million, which they tried to trade at the deadline, but they really couldn't get anything for it. Now, moving forward, this is a team that's with a projected $203.5 million. They're set to be a top 5 payroll next season, which they're going to have some restrictions if they don't make a trade. If you go ahead and look at this team moving forward, Jokić and Jamal Murray are making $50 million. I think we know that two salaries in Zeke Naji and Dario Saric, considering that two of them really don't play in the rotation, are going to be out. They need to keep paying Watson. They need to keep Christian Brown. They need to keep Julius Strother. But look, they have 10 draft picks outgoing and none incoming. They have shortage of draft capital. So all that is going to make it hard for them to find weapons. And the NBA is projecting 207 as the slated line. And this is going to put them in a hard position, as being an over the apron second team is going to prohibit them from being able to do trades with multiple players in certain scenarios. They're not going to have certain exceptions, and like the biannual in the second round. which is going to restrict them to just minimal players. So logically, you would think they're going to have to make a trade and do a deal to get under money. As if they don't do that, they're kind of screwed, because I think we can all agree they need to find somebody that isn't like Russell Westbrook, whose recklessness and shot creation style can be good and bad, but just doesn't work for this team. When I think about this is a team that it's hard. It's hard because I think you got to trade Michael Porter Jr. or somebody to sweeten a deal, but what are you able to sweeten a deal with? Is it Hunter Tyson? Is it Julian Strawther? Christian Brown's become amazing, and I wouldn't trade him. He's written to be a player who can play off ball, make reads, cut, finish, and be unselfish for this team. And he's going to become extension eligible sooner rather than later. Same thing with Payne Watson. You could argue, do you trade Payne Watson to get somebody? And that's kind of the thing. And it would make sense because then he would be able to eventually, hopefully, replace Aaron Gordon if you keep him. But you need to keep Aaron Gordon for as long as possible. So Payne Watson might be your only trade sweetener to get off of Zeke and Zeke and Dario. So I get that at that point. When you look at something like that, when you put it in those terms, how do we get under the cap right there? I think we just found it. Zeke Naji, Dario Saric, and Payne Watson is what you're going to shop to a team maybe like Brooklyn. Who do you get? Now, that's the biggest question. So, with that being said, they are below the apron, but if they do anything, they'll get over the apron, if that makes sense. So, what they'll have to end up doing is going ahead and finding a trade like that, because currently they're approximately $8 million over the first apron, $4 million under the second apron, and they are $16 million over the luxury tax. They have none whatsoever cap space, which puts them in the whole spot where they are, with 14 players staying. I assume Russell Westbrook's leaving. Their 13th, 14th player has a option in Dario Saric, but he's definitely out. That's 194 in guaranteed salaries, 8.8 in non-guaranteed salaries. But most of the guys who have non-guaranteed salaries, you'd probably want to keep. And I know you have Deron Holmes, who's another trade chip you could use, but do you want to give up Deron Holmes? That's where I get scared. I'm like, damn, I don't know. And you still have a trade exception for Reggie Jackson, which blows my mind that that's happening. So what do we do? I think the biggest thing is looking at our guy, Michael Porter Jr. or Payne Watson, with all those salaries. But there isn't a crazy good player to go out and get, because free agency, I told you guys already, I don't think there's somebody that makes a bunch of sense. It's a weak class. They can get somebody around the margins that's minimum salary, but the big swing is going to be in free agency. And we just told you guys there, it's 13.5 between the salaries of just Saric and Zeke. And if you use Payne Watson as the trade sweetener we suggested earlier, that's the only one that I think there is if you're the Denver Nuggets. And it's the only player that I think you could think about getting rid of. It's going to be Payne Watson, as Aaron Gordon and him play similar roles, or Deron Holmes. I'd rather try to keep Deron Holmes or both of them. So we're just going to keep both of them at mind while we do this. So if you throw in Zeke and Dario and Peyton, that gets you to 17.8, and Deron Holmes would then get you to what, 21 million exactly, basically. A little 21 and some change. Now, that would be able to get you, I believe, Nikola Vucevic. Maybe not. Maybe they'd ask for some assets, but you'd be giving them Deron Holmes and Payne Watson, 2 former first-round picks, and then salary filler. That obviously is not the best, but Chicago fans, let me hear your thoughts on that one. Vooch makes 21, so it'd be like $481,000 they'd have to eat, or I think they'd be able to do it, but it's not a terrible trade right there. I actually don't think that's a terrible one. And the rest of the deals that I would think before we wrap up here, just to give you guys some ideas, because you have to think about it, it's got to be players between 13 million and 21 million dollars that they could trade for that aren't going to handicap them. PJ Washington supposedly going to be on the chopping block. So is Jordan Clarkson. I would love to trade Zeke Nanji and Dario Saric for either of those guys. Now, you wouldn't be saving money. You'd be eating money, so you'd have to throw in Payne Watson, and then you'd be saving money. And it'd be like $2 million if you did one of those trades. Outside of that, you're looking at like a Cole Anthony. I don't think Brandon Clark's a solution there. I mean, you could Brandon Clark or Dart. If you could do Zeke Nanji and Dario Saric for Brandon Clark straight up, just swap them. You're saving like $1.5 million there. I'd do it, or just $1 million. You'd be basically saving $1 million there. I would do it, and then you turn around and you package Payne Watson and Deron Holmes, which that's $7 million. And if you start looking for someone, I think Javon Carter's not worth $7 million anymore. But if you look along the lines of, that's where it becomes tricky. Who is worth like $5 million? Out is John Conchar, where it just goes on too long, and you would just look to dump that $7 million if you're at that point, or try to flip that into trade assets, aka the Brooklyn Nets. Would you want to give us some second round picks or first round picks for those players, or try to turn that into a Jovic, like a Nikola Jovic, if they don't want to pay him? But then it goes into the thing, like if you're not going to pay him, you would just keep paying Watts at this point if you were able to do a deal like that. Let me hear your guys' thoughts.